exam packs you have, excellent. In your exam packs, on the first sheet that says applied anatomy and physiology, I would like you to link the bones to the places in the body where they meet. You can just draw lines across, so it should look something like this on your screen. I'm just going to give you 1 minute quickly. Can you link the bones to the places in the body that they meet? All right, there are some that have more than one meeting place. When you're ready, off you go. 1 minute. So 30 seconds to go. Just remember, there are a couple there that have more than one meeting point for you to work out. If you do get that task done quite quickly, you can then add them to the skeleton that is on the right-hand side of that table in your workbooks. I'll be briefly going through that, but we won't spend a huge amount of time on that this evening. Okay, so let's have a look and see how well you've done first of all. So this is basic AO1 recall at the moment. So sternum, you should have linked at the shoulder, femur at the knee, vertebrae at the head and the neck, ulna at the elbow, tibia at the knee, cranium at the head and neck, radius at the elbow, scapula at the shoulder, fibula at the knee, ribs at the chest, pelvis also meets at the hip, or is the hip really. The talus is in the ankle, and the humerus is at the elbow. Now, hopefully, as they come up again, these are the ones that have 2 meeting points on your screen. So you've got the humerus also meets at the top of the shoulder. Okay, so obviously it meets at the elbow and at the shoulder. You've got the femur that meets at the hip, but it also meets at the knee. You have got the fibula that meets at the ankle as well as the knee. And then we finish with the tibia in the same scenario. So hopefully, very quick basic recall. And you've managed to get all of those correct. Now, if we move on very, very quickly, as I said, I'm not going to spend a huge amount of time on this basic information. All right. But if you did have time just to put them onto the skeleton, it should look something like this. So you've got the ribs and the sternum, vertebrae and the pelvis on the left-hand side. And then on the right-hand side, you should have the cranium, scapula, humerus, ulnar radius down the side. Just remember, if you're looking at that picture, okay, he's got his palms facing towards you, which would mean that the ulna goes down to the little finger. It's the way you always remember that one if you need to get a difference between the two. And then you've got the femur, patella, tibia, fibula, and the talus at the bottom. Those are the only bones that you need to know. What I would suggest, if you do struggle with your bones, is make sure you 100% know the ones in the upper and lower arm and the upper and lower leg. They are the ones that AQA quite often like to talk about in terms of the movements and the bones located at those joints. So just make sure you know exactly where they meet. Okay, our next task, all right, not as many clues this time, but now you are going to add some muscles to the diagram that I've provided in your notes activity pack. Okay, so there's no clues on there whatsoever, all right, but I've just put some clues up in terms of the different types of muscles that you need to know. I'm going to give you just 1 minute on this one. You can either discuss them or you can add them really, really quickly to your diagrams, but 1 minute, off you go. And just ensure you have realised that picture, obviously, the one on the left-hand side of the screen as you look at it is the front. The one on the right-hand side of the screen as you look at it is the back. Okay, just 15 seconds left to do that. And again, this is still just your really basic recall stuff, the AO1 assessment objectives. They are the sorts of things where you're going to lose marks if you don't know them. All right, so lose the odd 1 or 2 marks here or there, and they're going to be across a fair bit of the paper. All right, so we've got to make sure that we know them. So let's go through them. All right, so hopefully, and I'll pose that question at the bottom, what attaches muscle to bone? We have a quick discussion about that as we go. All right, but hopefully on the left-hand side, you've got the deltoids, the pectorals, bicep, abdominals, hip flexors, quadriceps, and anterior tibialis. And make sure that you've got that at the front. On the right-hand side, okay, so the triceps, latissimus dorsi, gluteals, hamstring, and gastrocnemius. Spelt gastrocnemius, if that's how you need to remember it. And then just the last one to add is the rotator cuff. All right, just remember, try not to get that confused with the deltoid. The deltoid is the one that sits on the top. All right, and usually if it's pointing to the rotator cuff, it's just going to point slightly further in on that shoulder joint. And then that way you're not going to get the wrong one in your exam question. Now, I pose the question, what attaches muscle to bone? It is important that you understand the difference between what attaches muscle to bone and what attaches ligament to bone. Bone to bone. So hopefully you've already discussed that and it's come up that you've muscle attaches to bone via the tendon, okay, and then bone to bone is ligament. So ligaments are always around the joints and the tendons are on the end of the muscles. Okay, so now we're going to start looking at transforming these AO1 basic recall facts into some AO2 explanations. So in a moment on your screen, there's going to be 6 pictures that appear. What I want you to do is for those 6 pictures, can you work out what, or you may already know them, right, but work out what the functions of the skeleton are. Okay, some are a little bit more obvious than others. Okay, so there are your 6 pictures in front of you now. All I want you to do, all I want you to do is you've got a small table on the left-hand side. Filter in from numbers 1 to 6 what you think those pictures are. And yeah, I will slow down very slightly. That's not a problem at all. So if I give you another 30 seconds just to work out what those pictures are, and just make sure you put them in the functions box where it says functions AO1 from numbers 1 to 6. What are the functions of the skeleton? Okay, so hopefully you've had a discussion about those and you have written them down in that box. So let's take a little look at them. So the first picture, which was the GIF of the helmets, all right, hopefully that led you to work out that it is protection. So one function of the skeleton is that the fact there's a big protection, and I'll talk about the explanation points for those in a moment. Okay, number 2 was our structural shape and points of attachment. Okay, it should actually be support number 2, not structural shape and points of attachment. Then got movement as number 3. Number 4 is our blood cell production. Number 5 is structural shape and points of attachment. They're just the wrong way around. I do apologize for that. And the last one, which was our favorite Friends character, Joey, chugging some milk there, was mineral storage. Okay, so those are our 6 functions of the skeleton that you will need to know. Now, the key part of this is, can you explain what the function actually does? Can you give an example and explain exactly what the function does? And the question is likely to say, outline a function of the skeleton and explain how that function works or how that functions, or justify your answer in some way, shape, or form. So what I would like you to do now is just for protection and movement. All right, so the two bigger boxes on your screen right now, just for protection and movement, I would like you to give an explanation as to how the skeleton provides protection and how the skeleton provides movement for an individual. It could be a sportsman, but please give specific examples of these. Okay, I'll give you about a minute and a half or so just to work through those, bullet point them down in terms of notes, have a discussion about them, and see what you can come up with. Okay, so a minute and a half for that task. Off you go. So you've had 30 seconds so far, about a minute to go. Make sure you're specific. Try and give an example, as it is an AO2 element. Okay, we're just into our last 30 seconds of this task. Okay, so let's start with protection then. So we're now looking at an AO2 point. All right, so a lot of the time it's either an explanation, including an example, or a sporting example within these questions. So in terms of protection, okay, this is my example. So flat bones protect vital organs such as the cranium protecting the brain. If I was then going to put a sporting example onto that, all right, this may help during football when heading the ball. If it was an evaluate question, or if it was a question that was looking for an AO3 answer, I would then go on to talk about how it would protect the brain. All right, but we don't actually need to do that at this point. All right, so you could have also talked about, I'm sure some of you went in terms of the rib cage, protecting vital organs, again, from impact in sports, right? Could be from a tackle in rugby or even a tackle in football. Any of those sorts of sporting examples are perfectly fine for protection. Okay. If we then look at movement, so movement, the skeleton has joints. All right, I hope you, and we're going to be looking at the different types of joints in a moment, but the skeleton has joints that actually allow the body to move. Okay. The different joints in the body, all right, allow different types of movement, which we're going to look into in a little while. Okay. But also the different types of bones in the body allow different movements to occur. Or, for example, the smaller bones of the hand, fine movements, right? Whereas the larger bones or the long bones, as opposed to short bones, all right, they provide the gross movements that we see when we're running and striking and those different types of sports. So the long bones, which are mainly found or located in the arms and the legs, all right, provide large amounts of movement,